Okay.
Good morning, everyone.
Okay, we're chatting away.
Welcome to the first Q&A from CivTech 2.0, the second cohort of CivTech. I'm here with Rachel and Jason. They are from mygov.scot, which is a sister team from the same division as CivTech, from Digital Directorate. And so today's Q&A is going to be live streamed on YouTube, as you can see. But the questions, we'll be receiving the questions that you have through our mailbox. So if you have any questions, please send them through to civtech@gov.scot. So civtech@gov.scot. But we have already received some questions, and we had some prepared questions as well. So we'll kick off with some of this whilst we wait for your questions. So how are you guys doing today? Excited for the challenge?
We're great. Yes, very excited.
That's good. That's good. We're here at the CivTech studios. We have a rainy view of the castle in the background as well. So all set to learn more about this challenge. So guys, one of the first questions that I have coming through about this challenge was, what is the situation where mygov.scot is failing the citizens at the moment? So what is the specific, or what is one example of a user journey where someone goes in and tries to find the right information, but then for one reason or the other ends up not being able to find it?
Okay. Well, I suppose the basis of the challenge is around the fact that it's a complexity around the search terms that users use and then the sheer volume of information that's presented back to them. So when we did the prototype last year, I think it was, when we started looking at the service around legal aid, and we started working with Scottish Legal Aid Board, we started looking at the sort of trigger points that brings people to that. And people were often looking for legal aid, but then it would present them with the service information about legal aid specifically. And it kind of gave us the idea that actually if someone was then to then go and contact legal aid, they may not be eligible, or it may not be the right path for them to take. And in fact, anyone who is experiencing a relationship breakdown and then takes that next step around legal aid, actually there's other options that they should be considering. They won't search for that, so therefore they'll possibly be coming to the wrong information point straight away. So for us, we wanted to try and make a connection between the relationship between all that information and the problem that someone has, or the relationships across different services and issues, or the circumstance that someone comes to that, and present them with more options. So that then becomes quite difficult in a site that's organised and categorised with information in the way that mygov.scot is, in that you will search for something. Hopefully, if we've optimised it properly, they will then find that endpoint, but that might not be the thing that they need. So really, the challenge is kind of designed around that idea that someone has a problem, they're probably searching for what they think they need, not something designed around that actual problem.
Great. And you mentioned legal aid, and all over the challenge there's mentions about the justice cluster. How involved is the justice, the different justice organizations and departments? How involved will they be in the challenge going forward?
They are very involved. They are co-sponsor of this challenge, so they completely understand the problem. They understand the brief. We're very lucky that there's a support network around the Justice Digital Strategy, which its main proposition is around helping citizens get the right information at the right time. It starts off with bringing together all the relevant information across the justice sector, but actually step 2 is around better use of data and introducing more interactive tools. So they're very, very open to it and very enthusiastic about the possibility of kind of taking that challenge out to CivTech. And we have access to many of those organisations that sit within justice as a cluster through the various governance groups that sits within the Scottish Government. And that crosses from the Crown Office to the Scottish Courts and Tribunal Service to Scottish Legal Aid Board. And then actually there's a huge amount of connections across the third sector as well, who obviously are operating frontline services on behalf of the Scottish Government. So we have a really good network and very supportive as well.
So we can predict that whatever the company is that comes through to respond to the challenge will have great access to decision makers from different sectors in Scotland.
Absolutely, and we'll help make those connections as well.
Perfect. Jason, this one's a bit more technical, so I think I'm going to go to you. Are there any APIs available where people can look at before they send in the solution, so they can use for the prototype?
The way the platform and the website built on it are all built in-house. The way they've been constructed and architected follows an API first principle. So all data within the system can easily be made available according to tailored need. Clearly, we need to explore that with whichever partner we're talking about to make sure that fits their exact need. But certainly, there is no barriers to that.
So I guess to whoever sent that question through, if you send an email to the CivTech mailbox asking for this specifically, we'll get you in touch with Jason.
Absolutely.
And we'll take it from there. Another one that we have here is about the searches and how you track user journeys on website. Is this data anonymized? Is this data easy to track in-house for you to track the user journeys from one end to the other, and how and why they're dropping out of the website?
We have an in-house performance team within my team within mygov who are expert in all things Google Analytics. We also have started using a few other tools of late to round out our information about tracking. So yes, we hold great store in storing that information and using it to enhance our SEO, enhance our journeys across the site, identify areas for further research. So we gather in-house search terms. We use link decks to pick up on what people are using to arrive at the site, and we also started using tools such as Mouseflow, which allows us to track people's journeys across the site very closely in terms of what they look at within the site, in terms of the trigger links within it, the areas of information that they focus on. And so we've got a lot of tools available to us that we can, obviously work with challengers to exploit.
Yeah. So I'm guessing the same as the APIs. All these journeys could be shared if
all this
directly asked.
Absolutely.
For. So the same process would
Absolutely.
apply.
As far as I realised I didn't mention a bit about anonymity. Not an easy word to say. We have some sort of key legislation to follow in terms of managing anonymity. We have statements out on the website explaining which bits of data and which elements of somebody's journey through our sites we're storing, and people have the option to switch that off if they so desire. Very few people do, as they recognise, I think, that we're not trying to store any information for anything other than enhancing the website.
So another question maybe for you, Rachel. In terms of user research, and we know, and this is a question for me actually, we know that the Scottish Government is trying to deliver services with the citizen, and for the citizen. Would the company that gets through this challenge, would they have direct access to user research from mygov.scot, user groups, and a bit of guidance on how to do that mygov.scot way?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's then part of planning out what that discovery would look like. But you're absolutely right. Part of our delivery principles are that you start with data, and that's hugely important to this. But we're really keen that we bring the voice of the user into this project, and certainly we have done that in the past, where you take the data to design a content plan, and then you validate that then against users who've been in that situation. And we did that with our prototype last year. So there's lots of information that we could share even from that. But yeah, our hope is we would have users in the room as part of the project.
Yeah, perfect. And just to mention that CivTech is focused on this, and will provide the access within the CivTech to user groups as necessary.
Okay.
So it's a tricky question here. So I'm not certain about this, but my instinct is that the solution might be based on a serious redesign of the website. Is that something that you guys would be open to, or is that something that it's a bit further off the table?
We're always open
Absolutely.
to trying out new things. I mean, it's useful to understand the context of the content strategy in that. The content strategy that we're trying to implement through our work on mygov is that we treat the information as data, we categorize it, we tag it, we make it as powerful as it possibly can be. And the idea is then it's as flexible as it possibly can be as well, which, you know, from our perspective, we may not. And I think we know that we don't necessarily have the right product at the moment, but the information is a really important thing. And we would love to design a prototype or try new things, put it in front of users and see if it works. So we're completely open to suggestion.
Perfect.
But yeah, drawing those two answers to the previous answers together as well, it's we believe in evidence. You know, so you know, the prototyping, the testing, and the gathering of data set against a series of solid hypotheses will lead us to make those sorts of decisions.
Absolutely.
Just had a new one coming in just now. Jason's probably the best person to answer. What content management system is the current site built on?
Okay, well, currently the website is built on an in-house publishing platform that we call Rubric. So it's in development, completely under control of our team. Another arm to the mygov program. So we have a content arm, a product arm, and a digital engineering arm. The content management system is built within that team. So we have a group of users. Our core users are the content team. So we have a very user-led design and build function all under one roof.
I guess that could be a nice lead on to the next question. Could you guys speak a bit about the structure and the team and how you guys work, the methods of working, and all of the sorts?
Okay. Yeah, sure. So, as I said, the mygov program consists of 3 teams. We have the content team, headed up by Rachel. I head up the product team, which is the sort of bits and bobs in between. And then we have digital engineering. We work, we're co-located, and we are a collaborative function. We use agile methodologies to deliver iteratively improvements to both our website and our platform, so our publishing platform. So the product team consists of UX experts, design, product management, and performance. So we have our in-house performance experts feeding us the data to assist us with our prioritization, our decision making. Obviously, being very close to the content team as well allows us to really target those improvements to the publishing platform and the website. Well, straight from the horse's mouth. We have those experts in the room.
And how much assistance in hours per week would be given from mygov, the mygov technical team, to the company that comes through CivTech?
Well, we have, as I said, an agile approach that allows us to prioritize pieces of work and feed them into a planning process very frequently, rapidly. We have an expectation in our 60 and 120-day planning that this challenge is a key priority. And so we'll look at the work that comes in, we'll define it with, and say, okay, what is it that we can do to support you? Get it sized, get it into our pipeline, and fit it in accordingly. We should be able to turn it around pretty rapidly, depending on the scale of the ask.
I think we need to know what it was exactly, and that will be part of that as initial conversations before prioritising, putting to a backlog.
So I've got one here that hints a little bit of the solution, but AI could represent a route for this to happen. But it might offer that as a possibility, but also it might offer other possibilities to expand this website, for example, machine learning in order to improve the content and the user journeys. Is this something that you see as a potential for implementation, and is this something that you'd be keen on seeing proposals for?
Well, we've been really careful not to come up with those solutions, as you say.
Well, it was me.
Someone else did, obviously. There, yeah, that's great. No, it's good to see, and it is something we've absolutely seen some exciting work on. We would welcome any proposals that included machine-based learning or AI. Certainly, we've seen some interesting prototypes and some demos in recent months. And actually, yeah, we're completely open to that as an opportunity.
Great. Let me see if I have any more questions coming through. Not at the moment. Let's just give a few minutes to see if there's more questions coming through.
Okay.
Do you guys have anything that you'd like to mention, even though the questions weren't asked just yet?
Do
we have more?
I guess expectations for the challenge. What do you, even if it's not so specifically about the challenge that you're putting forward about CivTech, and what would be the opportunity for the company coming through, if they would have the opportunity to share the experiences with the rest of the technical team, or even if you have thought about further commercial opportunities going forward for these products?
Well, I mean, I would hope certainly that that not only is it an opportunity, I suppose, to really drive innovation for civic challenges. I would hope that whichever company was looking at this and thinking about it, they could see the opportunity to actually connecting citizens with public services that they may not otherwise be able to connect with, and that they recognise absolutely there are great outcomes there and measurable outcomes, and I think it's a great opportunity from that perspective in terms of really helping people. So I hope there's something in it from that perspective. I think there's also something there around the fact that this is a really good opportunity to connect with lots of different organisations as well across the public sector, and in looking at a challenge that has been a challenge for organisations for years and years and years, and it hasn't been solved yet. So there's something really exciting about this, and from our own perspective internally in the team, it's a real boost. It's a chance to do something exciting. It's a chance to do something innovative. And I think, it's quite a slog, actually, the work that we're doing. We're trying to collect and catalogue and bring together lots of information that's available through the public sector in terms of services. But it's a very difficult challenge to then connect that with citizens and understand the complexity of their problems and bring them to that information. So there's definitely a place for innovation in there, and the hope is that that'll give a boost to the people within the team in mygov as well.
Absolutely. I mean, from a broad sort of perspective, we see our sister website in the UK with a huge amount of information stored in it in one highly regarded website, but they themselves, our colleagues who work in GDS, recognise that they have enormous constant problems with this vast amount of information and people traversing it, people getting at core information, and we have a chance to really shine here, and really not go down a path that I think is sort of sitting there for any organisation that's publishing vast amounts of information runs the risk of snowing under people who are trying to look for key information, and we've got a chance, I think, before the website goes that way, to put in place approaches and thinking that is really user-centric and cuts to the real core of the problem, which is clear, unambiguous information that helps citizens solve problems.
Yeah.
We're as a government, we're getting at some major significant new powers in social security over the next couple of years, that will tie together a lot of the information we're already showing in mygov with these new transactional components that allow people to access benefits that are due to them, and interact with government in a way that in Scotland we haven't had yet, and we're really keen to kind of create a framework around that really assists the citizen in getting at that information easily, and getting at those services as easily and as painlessly as possible, and really enhancing their lives.
Yeah.
So that's for us is the broader context for what might seem to be sort of almost an academic challenge. It's not. It's the start of something something very significant in Scotland.
I think the opportunity as well to develop almost a taxonomy around users, as opposed to, I think, some of the more traditional government taxonomies that you see, which is much more around organisations or services. We'd really like to have that layer in terms of that's really useful and helps people in terms of what they're looking for, the challenges that they face in their lives. So from that perspective, I think that could be quite an exciting part of it as well, from a data perspective.
And it's a question for me. If providing that all of this goes well, we have a successful solution, what is the vision that you guys see for 5 years from now, when we have this implemented all across the website? As a citizen, which we all are, what is the ideal outcome for you in terms of going online and having your services online?
I think the way well, you see some glimmers of this, I guess, with some of the information boxes appearing on Google, is that in 5 years' time, we've done our job so well that no one actually ever gets to mygov. I think there's a very real possibility that if we've categorized our information well enough, solutions that we haven't imagined yet, but are in the minds of hopefully some of the people who are thinking about challenges like this, will come out is our information will be made available without anyone
knowing that we're even there.
Knowing that we're even there. I think that it's the egoless nature of public sector information is that we're not there to capture customer base. We're there to solve people's problems. So yeah, I imagine it's actually something like that, really. So
you make yourself less visible and more useful.
Exactly. I mean, it doesn't end the work at all. People will still surface mygov.scot, of course they will. But some of the information and the routes to it will be things we can barely imagine just yet.
Yeah.
Good. Another question through. You mentioned earlier that you have mapped user journeys. Have you an historical record of the usual snags or usual problems that people face that companies could support?
So as soon as we go into a period of discovery or start auditing what the landscape actually looks for a given service or for a theme or a topic that we're looking at, I mean, some of the common issues, it's hard to describe it as an actual user journey. I think some of the common issues that we encounter is that anecdotally that citizens, users find the landscape so complex and fragmented. But I think some of the snags are that people who are experiencing complex events in their lives, they're not thinking necessarily clearly enough to navigate online or to make their way through huge masses of online information. So it's a bit more generic in that people aren't necessarily always searching for what they actually need. They're searching for what they think they want, and that comes up quite a lot when we start looking at data patterns, for example. Quite often there isn't a clear user path. If everyone has a different scenario, a different situation, and that's why we think having a database of static information needs something on top of it to help people navigate. We have a lot of information from the content plans that we've produced that we'd be more than happy to share, and then that gets overlaid by again the anecdotal evidence when we hear the voice of users coming through. But it's much more. It's never a linear journey, I think, is what we've discovered, which would be easier, I think, absolutely.
On the challenge page, you mentioned that you guys done an early prototype. Would you care to explain how that came about and what were the findings that you guys got from it?
Yep. So the early prototype was actually around the concept of lives and life events. And the idea behind that was that when we were engaging with organisations, we wanted to be able to make the point that it was less about the organisational view or around the actual service, but it was about something that was happening to someone and the context that they were in when they actually encountered the service. And some of that thinking came through from the work we did across the Justice Digital Strategy, where we started to look at things like how can we get information to people to kind of tackle root causes of issues before they ended up in the justice system. So we started exploring this idea of life events, and that was because we had been looking at producing a whole pile of information around people who experienced debt or housing repossession. And that some research that we did around that kind of helped define what we meant by life event, because it's one of those terms that we do throw it around quite a lot and we talk about it quite a lot. But also it gave us an opportunity to try and look at what were those life events and start to actually look at them as a discovery opportunity. So we spun up a team, and we're really big on kind of getting lots of different disciplines within the team together. So we had technical representation, we had representation from the product team, from the performance side, design side, UX side, and the content side, as well as user research. So we had a really good multidisciplinary team looking at the theme of relationship breakdown, because we knew from that, having done a kind of a search demand exercise and mapping all the kind of the data points and the relationships across the data, that someone who's experiencing relationship breakdown, in fact, the searches that people are doing around that topic covered things like domestic abuse, housing issues, childcare issues, finance issues, housing issues. We just saw this pattern emerging across all the data. And what we wanted to do with that prototype was actually to start looking at a design solution, as well as looking at the idea of life events. And that would be around the idea of relatedness. So you get someone in on a high traffic keyword driver, and then you start to say, well, actually, you may be interested in all this other stuff around there. But the challenge was to do that in a way that wasn't going to be absolutely overwhelming for users as well. So we designed, I mean, it started off as just a design, it was just a paper prototype, basically, which then we got to a stage where we were ready to put in front of users. And we never actually took it to that next step, but again, we have all this information available. We have, I think, what was really a very rich discovery process, a lot of thinking around the concept of life events, moving completely away from any organizational view, really putting data first, getting users in the room and talking to them about relationship breakdown as a topic. But we just want to take it to that next level. So we have got something certainly that we would be happy to share. We can absolutely demo the process that we went through, all of the information that we onboarded as part of that, with anyone who comes forward for this challenge.
So I guess the challenge is the step after that prototype to take this bit further.
Yeah.
Let me see if we have any more questions coming through. Would you guys, no questions at this point, but I'll ask one. Would you guys care to talk about the metrics that really matter to you? So the solution that will find, what are the metrics that people really should be focusing on when thinking about this solution? Is it clicks, or is it effectiveness, or is it quickness?
So I guess there's a few that we can look at. It'll be interesting to think about how we start to measure any of this. That's always been a problem for us, because traditionally when you start to measure the effectiveness of a digital product, you end up looking at traffic, and that seems to be, it's not the way that we want to go with it. Certainly, even as a first pass, user satisfaction, we would love to, as Jason was saying, design something, iterate what we currently have, put it in front of users and see if it's more effective. We measure user satisfaction on the site currently, and we would like to use that as a metric. The other is probably a bit more difficult. It's much more outcome based, but the idea that somehow measuring that we're having an impact in terms of channel shift. So can we demonstrate that we're reducing the burden on frontline services and letting them really target their service to those users, rather than trying to navigate themselves, trying to help them navigate across quite a complex landscape. So if there was something in there that we could demonstrate that this was something that was lessening the burden on someone who was really there to help someone one-to-one, then that would also be a very useful thing for us to be able to kind of to present back in terms of it being a success. Is there anything you can think?
As you say, it's always been an enormously tricky area to measure. As we said earlier, public. If somebody's achieved their aim, usually it's reduced their visit time to the website. They've traversed it very quickly, got what they need, and gone again. I think there's things we can probably do based around sort of hypothetical funnels, journeys that we'd expect people to follow, and see whether that, whether people complete those and gather metrics around that. But yeah, I think we often fall back on that gathering of user feedback from the page as well, and rating somebody's completion of it, that human interaction with that. We know that's a fairly low percentage completion, but seems to be the most reliable for us at the moment.
Better outcomes for users, and we're open to suggestion on the best way to measure that.
Fair enough. On the challenge, you mentioned that citizens are the primary users, but service providers, as you mentioned just now, will also be using the solution. How do you envision this happening?
I think if it's open and available and it's useful, then people will use it, and that's the hope, actually. And also from the perspective that digital isn't always going to be the answer for everyone, and I think we need to be cognizant of the fact that not everyone will have the confidence to use a digital tool, and they will always want to speak to someone or need to speak to someone one-to-one, and we're very aware of assisted digital, for example. So yes, the primary user is absolutely the citizen, and that was the purpose of mygov.scot. But actually, if someone helping someone access services, helping someone get to the right place at the right time, can use that for that purpose, then we would want to make it open to them as well and promote it to them. And actually, we would like to have those service providers involved in the co-design of what that product looks like to make sure it really delivers for them as well.
And you guys can have the access to these key stakeholders provided to the teams as well.
We did a workshop when we were just exploring this, where we presented to a number of third sector organisations, the likes of Shelter or Citizens Advice, and we kind of presented the idea of what we were trying to do with this, because certainly everyone has a website, everyone has a presence, but what is difficult is that then confuses things more for users. So we ran a session with them to actually map out journeys across this concept of relationship breakdown. It was very interesting because then every organisation who was in the room had a different perspective on what that user journey would be, or the part that they played in that overall journey. So we did that as an exercise, but actually the purpose of it was to say, what would a tool like this do for you? What could it do for you? So we've got quite good engagement with those organisations, and I think after that it really kind of whet the appetite for taking it a step further. So we've had a lot of positivity from some of those agencies and organisations who are quite keen to be involved in the next step. So I think that's great because they're very close to users. I think it's great as well that they then can see how useful that would be for them as an organisation, as part of that wider landscape as well.
And were these organisations involved in the creation of the challenge as well?
That was the point, yeah. We've kept them involved throughout, and that was important as well from a justice perspective, because they make up a large part of that landscape. So so the idea was to refine the brief and the challenge with them.
That's all the questions I have so far. Do you guys have any messages that you'd like to convey to the company that is putting in through? If you could speak directly to the person that is thinking about putting an application for this challenge, what would you tell them?
Go for it. Just go for it. We're enthusiastic. We've got loads of information to share. We really want to make mygov.scot a success, and I think this is a brilliant challenge. And just go for it.
I think it's a great opportunity to maximise the power of data, really to maximise that in a very civic setting. There is no commercial gain here to be made for the citizen from our website. That's not what our job is. It's commercial gain for people coming out with clever tools, but it's a real opportunity to change and shape the way that governments present their information, the way the public sector innovates. I think it's all very much part of the CivTech theme as a whole. It's why should we be a poor relation in the public sector? We can really charge forward here in clever ways.
I guess I'll sneak in one last question. On the commercial opportunity, would you guys be in a position, if we find a successful solution, to then lead on the introductions further down south or around Europe? Would you guys be in a position to have these contacts and to introduce these contacts to the company that comes through? Yeah,
absolutely. We'd be shouting it from the rooftops.
Absolutely.
Already talking to other sectors of government, and we're out talking about the work that we're doing at the moment. People's eyes light up. But definitely, I think people really see it as an opportunity, and you can see people then thinking, actually, this isn't just a justice challenge. This is a challenge that is available and should be taken advantage of much wider than that. So, yeah, absolutely.
Sounds good. Okay, I think that's all from us. I'd like to thank Jason and Rachel for being here today. My name is Rui Cardoso. I'm with CivTech team. So if you have any further questions, you can send it to my email, which is somewhere on the wiki page, or to the email the mailbox for CivTech, which is civtech@gov.scot. Thanks very much for those who joined in. Thanks for sending in questions. Again, you can send questions to the mailbox or Public Contract Scotland, and then I'll forward them on to wait, I think we have one more question coming through.
Oh.
Good timing. So we'll just wait one more second. Needs to hurry up. I've got to be honest, this is my colleague from the other room sending me a text saying that she has a question. So I'm waiting.
Anticipation.
Drum roll.
Is it the lunch order? No.
Hopefully.
She could just come in and ask us in person.
Come on. It's typing.
Okay.
It's typing. It's my colleague Katie Line, by the way. She was the one doing the edit of all the videos, the advertisement spots for all the challenges. So well done to her, because I think they look really cool. Yes, so it wasn't a question from Mary, it was someone that tweeted us a question, so she was taking a picture. She came in. Katie, just ask the question.
Just join. So this is from Twitter. Is an improved mygov.scot really the solution to A2J? Isn't innovating the legal system the solution? I will just leave that there. If you want to have a look at that.
Isn't. Oh.
Thank you.
Sorry.
I'm listening. Can you see it?
Sorry. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Is an improved mygov.scot really the solution to A2J? Isn't innovating the legal system the solution? I mean,
let me just read out the question. So the question's about improving mygov.scot or improving the legal system. What would be the best solution for this going forward? That's a tricky one.
It is a tricky one. I suspect that the challenge that we're presenting isn't going to solve all the problems for justice, and it could be a solution. I wouldn't say it is the solution. I don't disagree that possibly innovating the legal system in Scotland is something that is needed, but I'm not sure it's something that we can really tackle as part of this challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. As I'm sure the questioner recognises, organisational change of a scale of organisations that we're talking about here and we've talked about today is a long-term goal. That everyone wants to see a more citizen-oriented public sector. What we can do, what digital offers the opportunity to do, is more rapidly simplify this complex landscape, or create that layer that says, okay, you don't need to know who provides X or Y. We can get you the information and assist you on that journey. And that's really getting to the hub of what we're trying to do here. Is you've got a problem. The public sector is complex. It's not just the public sector, it's third party, it's charities, it's many organisations, and that is going to take a lot to simplify. You don't have just one big organisation to solve that. So how digital offers a chance to traverse it for people, and that's the challenge we're trying to bite off here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in saying that, there's a lot of work that's happening from a justice perspective that isn't encapsulated in this challenge. This is very focused at civil. And I think, there's a lot of work going on just now from a digital transformation perspective, all those organisations coming together to try and tackle some of these big problems. But again, this is one part of it. I think this could be quite a good exemplar to show what you can do, but possibly isn't going to take on the legal system in Scotland.
Not just yet.
Not just yet. But we'll take that away and we'll pass that on, and there may well be some information that we can dig out that we can hand over. That's going to answer that question better than we just did.
Perfect. So I'm going to end it now unless someone else comes in through the door with another question. Let's give it another 3 seconds. Thanks very much, guys. I really appreciate that. I think that this challenge is very, very interesting, not only from a technological standpoint, but also because I am a citizen and whatever comes out of this will benefit my life, your lives, and everyone's lives. So I think this is very interesting. Again, thanks very much. And if you have any further questions, you know how to get to us. Thank you, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Goodbye.